a background of major events that have happened across Africa. So the first, this year in Kampala, the African Union refreshed its program, which is called the Comprehensive Africa Agricultural Development Program, or CAADP, which is the continental program for making agriculture work and drive development across the continent. RUFORUM played a role in drafting some of the elements of that document, and in there we have a role to mobilize universities to build different types of capacities to help governments implement that. The second one, it was launched last year. It is called the second decade of the Agenda 2063. And inside there is a key request to African institutions. Number one, to train 100,000 PhD scientists. And the reason is to make science work for Africa, because Africa imports a lot of science from outside, and rarely does Africa-generated science drive its development. So these 100,000 PhDs are supposed to contribute to making science products for Africa and using that to drive development. So 50% of the science that is generated must now be translated into development. That's what our heads of state have directed us to do, and Botswana is no exception to that. So that means we must do three things. The first is we need to mobilize strategic partnerships. So we are calling it building bridges for development. And we think universities have that. So we'll be having a number of international development and national development partners who will be coming in to have different types of conversations to address this question, including the second challenge, which is youth. Unemployment is a big problem.
It is.
So it is one of the issues that we're going to be building bridges to address. The second part of it is really what we are calling science.
Before we get to the second part, Professor, how far are we in terms of realizing that what you just mentioned just now?
So to do that, success depends on good planning. And so we've been undertaking a number of studies among our network, for example. And the basic results show that within RUFORUM member universities, there are 2,874 PhD programs currently running. Now, if each one of us can only graduate 10 PhDs a year, the 100,000 is possible. But that's why we need the second component. They need support, they need money, they need funding, they need the right infrastructure. This is why we must build those bridges. So the basic framework exists, but we need to tie the dots here and there. So we now know what to do. We know what resources are needed. What is necessary is to bring this together so we co-create solutions which work for all of us.
Right. And on to your second point.
So the second point is really what we call science into development, and I'm strategically coining that because it's not true that Africa doesn't do science. The real thing is that we must move that science into innovations. Most of what we have are technologies and ideas. But for me, an innovation is only one when people are walking to the bank all the way smiling. Short of that, it is just a piece of idea. And so we have lots of scientific ideas that we must turn into innovations on money, wealth, creating for the economy. Now, I know for Botswana, among others, you want to diversify your economy. So we are going to have a science conference within Science for Development, in which we are going to try to bring science from Africa and the rest of the world to Botswana, but also take Botswana to the rest of the world, because you have things to offer. The third part of this is all about addressing the endemic challenge of youth unemployment due to, among others, very low work transitions. Only 3 African students who graduate have a chance to get a job in the next 3 to 4 years out of 10. Africa generates about 12 million young people ready to go to the workplace, but only 3,000 jobs, 3 million jobs are available. And so we have to change that narrative, and it is possible. So we are going to be working with our universities. We're implementing what we call a transformative education agenda. That means we must reflect on how universities are structured. Wrapping all this up is the discussions around what we are calling fourth generation universities. And these are universities that don't just train, they actually generate solutions that help to grow the GDP of a country. So we want to hold the feet, if I may use that, the feet of our universities on the fire to be equal development actors. They shouldn't just be talking about this year we graduated 5,000 people. The question should be, you graduated 4,000 3 years ago. What are they doing in the economy? So that's the direction RUFORUM is doing to help our universities to move the development needle a little bit forward more than they're doing now.
Right, right. And what can we say or attribute to this that we have been experiencing that you will, table and take forward to find solution to?
Could you repeat your question?
What can we say, what can we point to say that this is the reason why we see that as Africans we are more of importers rather than exporters of, when we talk scientific research and the likes, specifically in the agricultural space?
So there are a number of reasons why Africa's agriculture is struggling. But the first one is that there has been underinvestment in science itself. So Africa puts less than 2% of its GDP in research overall, across all sectors. And if you go to agriculture itself, it's even less. But the continent agreed many years ago to up that number. At least 5% of GDP, of its annual budget of every country should be going into agriculture. And that should trigger 10% growth per of the agricultural sector per year. That's not happening. So nearly most countries in Africa could not meet that target. So one of the challenges has been underinvestment. The second challenge that we've had is the issue of capacity to train. And this goes into different areas. This outdated curricula and the way we are structured. We do not connect our training to industry. A 6-week internship program is not going to produce for you a farmer. And so we need to think about a new way of working where knowledge is not just resident in the university. Knowledge is resident in many places. How can we train people through an ecosystem approach where they work in industry and train? In Germany, as an example, who do this, the unemployment from graduates who are coming from higher institutions is less than 3% compared to 60% in Africa, where students are in the classroom, do 6-month internship. It's no shock that their transition into the world of work is exceptionally low. And that's why in most countries you will hear workers complaining, your university graduates are irrelevant to us. And they surely should be, because they do not know the training in the university is a foundation. And that should help to transition you into the world of work, which is different from the academic environment.
Right, right. I mean, this is something that we've been talking about for across different sectors really for quite some time, where we find that there's that mismatch in skills. What we learn in the classroom might not be sufficient enough for us to be able to carry and perform in the workspace. Back there you did mention that this is one thing that you intend to talk more about, and I think that's really commendable for you to be doing. Now, Botswana will be hosting the 21st, AGM this December. What do we stand to gain as a country out of this?
So Botswana is hosting this AGM on behalf of the SADC region, really. So we are 2 years in a row in SADC, actually 3 years. Next year we'll be in Zambia. And the idea is to leverage the strengths that we have in Southern Africa. As an example, some of the leading universities in Africa are in this region, but they are in South Africa. So when you compare the performance of South Africa University to Southern Africa universities, it's like night and day. And then you jump all the way to North Africa and a bit of West and a bit of East Africa. So what are we doing about this? The idea is to learn from one another first. So one of the things that will be happening is we'll be bringing our deans, the people who manage academic units, will be having conversations about transformative changes in education. Remember, our mission is strengthening capacity of universities to do their job better. So we are going to be having meetings of deans, and among them we are talking about how can we train differently for a new world of work. The second thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to be having different meetings with development partners as well. And that will help us to resource for mission fulfillment. But the third and important one is building strategic partnerships. And we will start with the nation here. I came and 3 weeks ago I was at the BMC and I listened to them, saw what they were doing. And one of the challenges was how do we restart our tannery? It's a big strategic interest. And he raised a number of issues around the tannery. And my answer to him was, but the problems you're raising actually are not far from here. If you drove down the road and headed to a place called Gaborone, you'd find those solutions. There are universities there, departments of biochemistry, engineering, and many others. Academia will solve this for you. There are young people who can get solutions to the small problems you're pointing. So those types of strategic partnerships to help the local industry, we are going to be having conversations around that. Then thirdly, we are also going to give Botswana a chance to market itself as a gateway for academic convergence and discussions. There are many things that happen whenever a forum leaves a place. Number one, you have a lot of come back to the location and see how we can pick from there. So as an example, we are having people from Southeast Asia coming here. We are having people from China, from India. So we are going to have a South-South high-level summit, if I may use that language.
Yes.
And then we are also going to have a Europe-Africa. We're going to have Africa regional meetings. We're also going to be having Africa-North America. In other words, we'll be connecting Botswana to the rest of these institutions. So we'll be leveraging the things that are taking place outside there and helping Botswana. Instead of starting to build from ground, you will be leapfrogging and jumping many steps onto so many things that you're doing. That's from the academic point of view. To the economy, you have 600 plus delegates coming here, and so your hotels are definitely going to be full. Your airport, the other day we were having a meeting and they were saying, so 400 people, passengers landing here in almost the same time, how do we deal with that? So you can see that all this means a lot of activity for the local economy. I think the Gaborone City Council stands also to benefit. People will be touring and so on. And the most important thing is the people of this lovely nation. We are going to be visiting farmers, and we'll be visiting the young people. We'll be running hackathons. There are things that may not be happening here or are happening at a smaller scale. We are going to engage the young people. And our focus is really to include the excluded populations. So we'll try to engage everybody with what we have, with the resources we have and the time.
Right.
Thank
We
you.
are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, there we have it. That was Professor Patrick Okori, RUFORUM Executive Secretary, and he was just telling us a bit about what the forum really is about and what to expect from it. It will be the 21st Annual General Meeting will be held right here in Gaborone from the 1st to the 5th of December 2025. Stay tuned for the news at the top of the hour.